Right. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. This is fourth virtual lesson. So thank you to everyone who is joining us today. So today I'm going to be held by Devon, and their topic for today is who is your horse? So we're going to be talking about how we describe our horses. So how we talk about how tall the horse is, what color they are, what different markings they have, and some information about the horse breed, in particular the ones that we have here at Little Bit. So we have Miss Rosie Girl with us, who's a little bit impatient because she hasn't quite finished all of her lunch. So she's going to hang out with us. And Devon is going to talk to us about how we measure a horse and how we talk about how tall they are. All right, Devon, over to you. Hi, everybody. So Rosie's going to help show and demonstrate how we measure a horse. And this is important. Thank you, Rosie. Nice slime on my arm. This is important to differentiate or know who is a pony and who is a horse. And the cutoff is 14.2 hands. So a hand is a funny measurement, right? But the idea is when you're measuring a hand, your hand is positioned like this, and this is about 4 inches, right? The width of my palm. So if I were to measure Rosie without her handy dandy stick, I would have to take my hand and I'd have to, sweet girl, I'd have to take my hand and I'd have to count how many hands tall she was. And the way we measure is from the base of her foot, front foot, all the way to the top of her wither. Just turn her sideways a little bit. Yeah. So the withers are right here, kind of this tallest peak. So we're going to find out if Rosie Girl is a pony or a horse. What do you think, Rosie Girl? So our stick is really cool. It's got this little measuring piece that comes out so that we know exactly how tall she is. And then it raises up. And if you look, it has inches here. And it has these bigger numbers here. So each number is a hand. So the shortest this goes is 10. So if we were measuring Pete, we'd actually need a shorter stick because he's less than 10 hands. And it only goes up to 18 hands. The 18 is under this black line here. So if we had any horses taller than 18, we need a taller stick. So Rosie's going to stand nice and still for us. And I'm going to put this at the base of her front foot. And I'm going to lower down our measurer here. Good girl. She said that sounded weird. And then I'll take it away. Good job. Nice job, Rosie Girl. So if you look, she's above 14 hands. And it looks like she's just about 14.2 hands tall. So 14 and a half hands tall. Right? Thank you, Rosie. Great job. So it means that she's just at the cutoff for being a pony. You're not quite a horse. All right, thanks, Rosie. So that's how we measure a horse. I had learned a fun fact, though, that I wanted to share with you guys, and that the tallest horse on record was 21.2 hands. So remember, our stick didn't go above 18 hands. So I'm going to show you with a measuring tape how tall that horse would have been. So if you do the math, 18 hands is just about 7 feet at the shoulder. So for comparison with Rosie, I know, she says I'm going back to my lunch. So for comparison for Rosie, this is where this horse's shoulder would have been, not even his head. That's a really, really tall horse. How tall is Harvest? So Harvest is only 17 hands. So he would have been the tallest our stick could go almost. And this horse is about a foot taller than he was up here. All right, Rosie Girl, should we leave you be for a little bit of lunch? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So we are going to start talking about another way that we describe our horses, and that is by what color they are. So we don't use a lot of the normal colors. So for example, there are a lot of horses that are some shade of brown. So we don't really call horses brown. because we would have light ones and dark ones. There's lots of different types. So we have special names for the colors of the horses. So I'm going to show some diagrams, but I'm going to post these on the littlebit.org/resources website so that you can come back and look at them after this lesson. But we're going to start by looking at a few of these. So Lindsay, if you want to zoom in, I found this super cute diagram. I love these little chunky round ponies that they have on here. I think it's super cute. Okay, so we can see there's lots of types of brown horse, for example. So this color here, this is a really common color in horses. So it's a horse that has a brown body and a black mane and tail. And that's called a bay horse. So when we've talked about these diagrams a little bit, we're going to take a little walk down this row and we're going to look for some horses that are that color. We also have a slightly lighter brown, and this actually can be quite an orangey color in real life, and that's called a chestnut. Another one that we have a lot of a little bit are dons and buckskins. So that's like a kind of like a creamy color with a different colored mane and tail. But the one I wanted to talk about before we go further down the row is gray horses. This is one of the really interesting things about horses, and we're right here next to Tess right now. So if we look at Tess, we can see that she is got kind of gray, kind of circle colors in her coat. So what's going to happen when Tess was born, she was probably almost nearly black. And by the time she's a lot older, she'll probably be almost completely white. So we often don't call horses white, they're called gray horses. And it's actually something in their genetics. As they get older, they produce less pigment. So the new hair that's growing through isn't colored anymore. It basically turns white, like gray hair, like we do as we get older. So originally they're colored horses and they lose that color as they get older. So Tess won't be this color for her whole life. She will get whiter and whiter. So Lolly, for those of you who know Lolly, Lolly is also a gray horse. She is not a white horse, she is a gray horse. And when she was born, she might also have been a really, really dark gray color, and she's changed as she's gotten older. There are white horses, but they would have like pink skin around their eyes and like very pink muzzles and in their ears and things like that. And we can see, like in Tess's case, that she's got darker skin, she's got kind of grayer kind of colored skin. So there is such a thing as a white horse, but most horses that you see that you would call white are actually gray horses. And I always think that's a pretty interesting thing. Okay, so let's turn around and look behind us, because here we have Mr. Dancer. Now, a lot of our horses are going to be chilling out and pretty quiet today. They might not come over and say hi. It's a really hot day, so they're all having their afternoon naps. But we can see that Dancer, he has two colors. Hi, buddy. Are you sleeping? Hi. So he's two different colors. He has like a white color and then he has a dark brown color. So he is a paint horse. Now, I have a question here for Devon, actually. Because I'm from England, I'm from the UK, sometimes we call things a little bit different to how people call things in America. So I would call him a piebald because he's two colors. Is that a phrase that you guys use here?
Kind of. So technically, if we find, but you get a carrot for something more. So technically, in the U.S., he is considered a painted horse, not a paint horse, because paint is its own breed, and his coloring is what we would call a cue ball. So piebald here is black and white. Davida is a really good example, and he's cue ball, meaning brown and white. And specifically, his paint markings are called Tabiano. Now, Tabiano is a variation of coloring, and it means that he has white along his back. He has white down his legs, and part of his neck is white. So that's what makes him a Tabiano. There are lots of different words for lots of different coloring, but he would be considered in the US pupil.
Always good to know, right?
Yeah.
So typically we say a horse that has 2 colors is a piebald, and a horse that has 3 colors is a pupil. So slightly different uses of the same term, right? That's pretty interesting.
No, you don't. You only get one.
Okay, let's take a little walk. Let's see if we can find a bay horse. So we're looking for a horse with a brown body and a black mane and tail. So we actually have one right here, but it's really hard to see because we're napping in our shed. So this is Rooster. Hi, bud, buddy. You're gonna come into the sunshine? He's like, no, I'm not. We have another one if he wants to see. He's out in the sunshine. So again, Anna is a gray horse. So Mr. Harvick, he is a bay. So he has a brown body and a black mane and tail. You can also have a dark bay, which is kind of different shades of brown all over their body. Mr. Banks is a dark bay horse. So there's lots and lots of different colours, but you see lots of bay horses, so that's a really good one to be able to identify. Hi, friends. Everyone heard about the carrots, and now they're all coming out to see it. Yeah. Okay. So as Devin was saying, the beater as well. She has 2 colours on her body, and you said you call her a piebald because she's black and white, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, let's go down to Miss Tiki. So Tiki has this kind of very light coat with a black mane and tail. Hey, buddy. And Tiki's actually a Mustang. And is she a quarter horse?
She's a quarter horse.
Okay. But she's called a buckskin. Her color is buckskin. That kind of creamy brownie colored body with her black mane and tail. We don't have any black horses a little bit, do we?
I don't think we have any true black horses. To get a true black horse is actually pretty rare. I think the closest would be Nellie. Nellie is an Appaloosa, and her coloring is called frost. She looks like she's got snow on her butt.
So she has these dots on her butt like this. Those spotty things, they're Appaloosa.
Would Della have been a black horse for those of you guys who remember Della?
Yeah, Della was our black horse. That's correct.
So another one that I know lots of you will know, so he's on the other side, so we're not going to walk around to see him just yet. But Sherman, that kind of yellowy colour with the light mane and tail, he is a Palomino, that kind of really lovely, beautiful, creamy yellow colour. He looks like a big giant toasted marshmallow. That's what somebody described him to me once as, and I think that's super cute. So he is a Palomino. So like I said, we're going to put all of these diagrams up on our resources part of the website, so you guys can take a look and see if you can match the colours with the horse that you ride a little bit. And there is a lot of variation. So I brought another one that's got even more complicated divisions of all the colors of the horses. So we'll put this up so you guys can take a look. And if you're coming back to class, it would be a really cool thing if you could try and learn what the color of your horse is. So when you come back, you can tell your instructor what you've learned about during the break. That would be a really cool thing to do. So yeah, lots and lots of different colors of horses, but we talked about some of the common ones here. So the other thing we're going to talk about is marking. So horses have 2 main areas that they have what we call marking. They have them on their face and they have them on their legs. So here are the ones that you might find on their faces. So we go from little teeny tiny ones like this little dot on their nose to this one's quite common to have white area here or a big stripe down the middle. If that stripe's a little bit wider, it's called a blaze. And if it covers their whole face, called a white face or a bald face. This one's not real, but I think it's kind of cool. This one's just for decorating your own horse. All right, let's see if Miss Rosie can say that. And we'll go ahead and take her fly mask off. Hey, Rosie. Hi. Hey, sweet girl. Can we see your beautiful face? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we can. Oh, yeah, we can. All right. She's like, hi, Devin. You have not. So, we can see that Rosie is this beautiful kind of ginger orangey color. So she is a chestnut, a really beautiful color of chestnut. And we can see that she has this beautiful stripe down the middle of her face like this. I would call that a stripe, but it's getting a little bit wider where it's nearly a blaze. But for me personally, I would call that a stripe that goes down the front of Rosie's nose. The other type of marking that we have is we have markings on their legs. So the markings on their legs are categorized by how far it goes up their legs. So these are their hooves, and then you have a white bit that goes up their legs. So the higher it goes, the different name. So if we look at Rosie's back leg, we can see this one here that's close to us. I would say that's around about a sock. I would call that a sock on her left hind. Let's have a look at the other side. It's a little bit higher. So that one I would call a half stocking. So if we were going to describe Rosie, then we would say, hello. Yes, we would. We would say she is a chestnut mare because she's a girl. So that's what female horses are called, mares. We would say she is a chestnut mare with a white stripe, and she has 2 white half stockings or 1 white sock and 1 white half stocking on her back leg. That's how we would describe Rosie. And we would also measure her like Devin did before with Rosie Pony, how tall she was. Devin, can you tell us how tall she is from her side? She's 16 hands. So she's nearly 2 hands taller than Rosie Pony. And she's very happy to see it. Good girl. So that is how we would describe Miss Rosie. So again, I'll go ahead and put these sheets up with these markings on. We'll put this on after. And you guys can look. And for the face marking, a fun thing to do, you can go to the Little Bit website. You can go to the horses page, and you can go through pictures of all of our horses and see what face markings they have. This is a photo of all of our horses on that website. We're going to hang this up. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about horse colors, about horse markings. I know, you're right. And about how we measure horses' height. So the next thing we're going to talk about is horse breeds. So just like dogs, there's all kinds of different breeds of horses. So sometimes people ask us with like Lola or Lolly, some of the smaller horses, if they're going to grow to be, if they're young, are they really young and they're going to grow to be bigger? And they're not, because the breed of horse that they are means they'll always be small. So like a little Chihuahua dog, not going to grow to be like a big Great Dane or something like that. A breed of horse is going to be smaller. So each breed of horse has certain characteristics about how tall they are, what color they are, and what their kind of temperament is. So Devin and I are going to walk around and talk about some of the breeds that we have here a little bit. Bear in mind that there are kind of rules about colors and height. The temperament things around horses are a guide and a suggestion. Horses, just like ours, are all individual. So whilst there are commonalities within a breed, it doesn't mean that all thoroughbreds are big, fast, crazy running machines, and all draft horses are big, lazy, kind of slow animals. Like there's always variations within the breed, but some of the things we're going to talk about here are kind of general things about that type of horse, and that's going to help you guys understand why we have these types of horses here as therapy horses. Okay, shall we go and talk about fjords first? I think we should.
I feel like we can talk about fjords. Thanks for helping, Rosie.
We're coming back to you, girl.
Okay, so I'll talk about fjords, and we're going to go visit Ronan because he's a really good example of some fjord markings we're going to talk about. But first, we're gonna talk about fjords as a breed. So, as most of you probably know, fjords came originally from Norway. They were bred to work on farms, and they were bred to be really, really strong, right? Originally, when they started breeding the fjords, they didn't have the colors and markings that we're used to, right? But over time, they became more specific, I guess. Oh, Ozzy is going to be our model, I guess. So Ozzy, want to come and say hi? If you guys haven't met him, he's our newest fjord. He's very curious about all of us. So what we notice most about fjords are their two-tone manes and tails. And it's actually because of a stripe of color that goes from the top of his head all the way back to his tail. So if we were able to look over his back, you would see that line that goes all the way down, right? He also, if we look at his legs, have darker leg markings down below. And if you'll let me take off your fly mask, buddy, I promise there's a carrot in it for you. Hold on. If you look at his face, hi, handsome. If we look at his face, he's got darker coloring by his muzzle. And up top, you can barely see them. Ronan's a better example that we'll see in a minute. He's got these little dots right above his eyes, and those are called najal marks. And essentially what people believe is that over time, horses developed this coloring because it was really cold where they live. And having dark colors along the points of their body helped keep those places warm, which is interesting, right?
Very interesting. I did not know that.
So this is our stereotypical fjord, right? Interested, hungry. He and most of our fjords, other than Gigi, are considered a brown dun. So Jenny was talking about duns, right? That they have a base color on their body and then darker legs, right? So that's Ozzy. Let's see if I can convince Ronan to end his nap a little early with a carrot. Hi, buddy. And show off the Nadal marking. Hi, Nathan. I think he knows there might be carrots in it for him. Hi, sweet boy. Beautiful, beautiful boy. Oh, good boy. So it might be hard to see, but you can see these little kind of dots right above his eyes. So they're right here. Hi, bud. I know, I'm going to put your head. So they're right here. This kind of eyeliner he has. Aren't they pretty? I know. Should you get a carrot for being a good boy? Yeah. And he has really cool markings on his legs. He has stripes. So if you look, especially here, he's got these little stripes of color. The one that has the best stripes is Loki. He lives on a different line of the paddock, so we won't go see him today. But this is still considered a brown dun. Again, Gigi is the only one who's not brown, and she's considered silver. Fjords can come in a couple different colors. Brown is the most common. They have brown, silver, yellow, and white. I think I got all of those colors.
Yeah, I actually didn't know about the white. Well done.
Yeah, I know. No more cookies. No thanks. So, those are our fjords. Should we talk about our next horse?
Yeah, let's go and talk about our next one. So one of the things that's really good about our fjords is that from a personality perspective, and like I said, anything about temperament is a general rule. Generally, they tend to be pretty calm. So they're kind of responsive horses, but pretty chilled out. So that's something that we are really like in a therapy horse. We want horses that are going to be kind of quiet for you guys. That's what we all want when we're learning to ride. is a horse that's nice and calm and is going to let us take our time to learn. So we're going to go down to the end and we're going to look at Rosie Pony. Rosie Pony is a halflinger. So we have 3 halflingers, and Rosie Pony actually looks a little bit different to the other 2. So I'm going to describe them, and then I'll tell you who the other 2 are when I finish describing them. But see if you can guess and see if you're right by the time that I finish describing them. So there's a little line about halflinger horses. People call them the golden horse with the golden heart, which I think is a really beautiful way to describe a horse. So think about that when you're thinking about which horses they might be. So here's Rosie Pony. So her colouring is typical of a halflinger. So they always have like a brown type coloured body. Hers is quite dark. Hers is what we call almost like a liver chestnut coloured body. But they always have what we call this flaxen mane and tail, like this beautiful, bright, blonde, gorgeous mane and tail. And that's where that kind of golden horse description comes from. So keep thinking about which of our horses that might apply to. So halflingers, they're called halflingers because they were first bred in the town of Hafling in Austria. They were used for mountain horses. So they were used for packing things through the mountains. So they're very strong, sure-footed, reliable horses. They're used a lot for driving as well as for riding. So that means that you have a cart behind them, or they would work on a farm and like pull a plow and things like that. So very, very good, strong horses. So I found some really interesting facts out about them when I was researching them. So first of all, even though they typically range from 12 to 14 hands high, remember there's 4 inches in a hand, technically they're horses, not ponies. Now this is one of these really funny things because the rule is normally 14.2 hands or lower is a pony and anything over 14.2 is a horse. But according to their breed, they are horses, not ponies. Apparently this is something that halflinger breeders get very upset about. If you call them ponies, they're not ponies, they're horses. So that was something really interesting that I learned about. I also learned that during World War I, they actually nearly lost the whole halflinger breed. Because so many of those horses were lost in Europe. They originated in Europe. So many of those horses were nearly lost during that war that breed was nearly completely wiped out. So some people worked really hard to keep that breed going and to keep breeding them and to restore the breed. And like I said, we're really lucky we have 3 of them here a little bit. The other 2 look very similar but different to this one. The integrity of the breed, so that means like which stallions are classified as halflingers and are allowed to breed, that's actually ensured by the Austrian government. So they kind of take charge of that to make sure that that breed stays very consistent. And that's why we keep all these commonalities of their like coloring and their sizing and everything like that. Rosie Pony is going to go ahead and take a look on that. Oh, this is, I think, is my favorite fact. It's not really specific to the breed, but it's super fun, is that the first horse that was ever cloned was a halflinger. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, in 2003, they cloned a halflinger, an exact DNA copy. So yeah. Has anybody guessed what our other 2 halflingers are? Think about that golden horse with the golden heart, with that beautiful blonde mane and tail. So the other 2 are Spring and Magic. And Spring and Magic, they're that really golden color, and they're actually half brother and sister, I think. Yeah, half brother and sister. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we have 3 halflingers here at Little Bit as part of our team. Okay, who should we talk about next?
Why don't we talk about Vita?
Let's talk about Vita. Nice.
Awesome.
Do you guys want me to wait to read chat questions until Q&A?
Yeah, let's wait until Q&A. Yeah.
So we're gonna wave to the answers as we go by because he is also the breeder we're talking to. We've already seen him and given him a carrot. So we're gonna head to Vita. So we have 2 very special horses called Tennessee walking horses. Here a little bit. Dancer, our handsome man who's brown and white, and then Davida, who is black and white. The sheet she's wearing is a special fly sheet to keep the bugs off of her, because like me, the bugs really like her. So she and Dancer are Tennessee walking horses, and I think you guys can probably guess where they originated from, and that is from the state of Tennessee. And they are special because they walk differently than our other horses do. They're bred that way. They're bred to be what we call gaited. So a horse's legs, if I pretend to have 4 legs, right, our other horses a little bit other than Davida and Dancer, when their legs move, the front, right, and the back left move together. Diagonal pairs, right? That's something you might have heard when they're trotting. Yeah. So their legs move like this, right? So diagonal pairs. But if we watch Davida closely, if she comes over, you'll notice that as she speeds up because she's happy about carrots, all of a sudden, the legs on the same side start to move. And that's gaited. The reason they were bred for that is because people wanted an ultra smooth ride. Okay, and if you guys have ever ridden Davida or Dancer, you'll notice that as they speed up, they actually get smoother. So let's see if Davida will come over. Davida, big girl, are you taking your nap? Oh, you heard the carrot bag. Hi, sweet love. So again, it's a little difficult to see, but the things that walkers are known for, other than being gaited, is they have these beautiful long necks. So if I ask her to raise her head up, right, we see how she has beautiful long neck, what's called a sloping shoulder. So a shoulder that isn't big and burly, right, like our fjords, right? And they're also known for being really, really gentle and kind, okay? And Davida definitely takes the cake on being the kindest, gentlest horse I know. I get to work with her with a 5-year-old, and she is so patient and kind with this little kiddo who thinks she's a princess because she has so many colors. So Davida's coloring is pretty typical for walkers. Walkers can come in all different colors. Every color under the sun they can come in, but they are usually painted, meaning they have multiple colors. They're also known, they're also known for having best friends, so they're highly social, meaning they love to live in a group. I'm gonna have to give the carrot bag away. She's too excited about the carrot. So let's see if I'm missing anything else. What do you think? Have I gotten everything?
Like, tell me how beautiful I am.
I know. The other thing that I really love about Davida is she's very patient with people. So if you guys get the chance to work with her, you should know that she does have a favorite itchy spot right here. And I'll show off her really beautiful neck. So if you guys get the chance to come out and ride Davida or Dancer, we'll try and make sure that you guys watch their legs move so you can see how it's different.
So next week, we have a virtual lesson on gaits of the horse.
Ah!
We're going to be showing you guys all the different gaits of the horse. So walk, trot, canter for all of our little bit horses, except Dancer and Davida, and we will show you their gaits so you can see how that's different. She's like, they must be in there somewhere. All right, let's go ahead and see some other horses.
Should we do warm bloods next?
I'm going to do them last because they're kind of a little bit different. So the one I wanted to talk about next is quarter horses. Now, this was really interesting for me to find out about because we don't really have a lot of quarter horses in England. We have a lot of different types of horses. We have a lot of Welsh horses, Welsh mountain ponies, Welsh section A, Bs and Cs. We have a lot of English thoroughbreds. Banks is actually an English thoroughbred. Lots of different types of breeds, but quarter horses are, where are you, buddy? There you are, still napping. Quarter horses is not a breed that we have a lot of in the UK. So it was really interesting for me to learn about them. And quarter horses are really an interesting story of American history as well. So they're called quarter horses because they were bred to be able to run really fast over a short distance of a quarter of a mile. So that's a lot shorter than like a normal like racetrack that you would see if you see like horses racing on the TV, like the Kentucky Derby or something like that. They're thoroughbred horses. So these were bred to be faster over a smaller distance. So how the quarter horse breed came about, it's a real mix of colonial horse influences. So when the English, when when we first came over to America, some of the horses that we brought with us were the English thoroughbreds. Big, tall, long-legged, fast racing horses. And obviously, as people are very naturally competitive, people were always trying to breed the fastest, best horse, right? And they noticed that a lot of the Native American Indian horses were actually faster because they had some of the Spanish colonial horses that they had brought into their herd, and they were smaller but super fast small horses. So they started to breed those two types of horses together, and that's how the quarter horse came about. So they really wanted to breed a horse that was really strong, really sure-footed, and really fast over short distances. And these little horses were, and some of them are not so little, some of them are really big, strong guys. They were used a lot by the pioneers as they moved out west across the states. So they would use them as pack horses. They're used a lot in ranching. These guys can chase a cow down, like some of them really love to do that. And so typically their breed is very muscular. So I don't think Mr. Rooster's going to come out and see us because he's having his nap, but they typically have like big, muscular, in particular at the back, they tend to have a big, wide, strong shoulder, and they're very sturdy horses, but they have a lot of speed to them as well. If anybody ever gets the opportunity to be a little bit when Ariel in our equine team is riding Mr. Rooster, they do something called like sliding stop. So he runs really fast and then he stops really, really quickly. I'll try and find some videos of that and put it on the Little Bit Resources page for you guys to see. Super cool, some of the exercises that people do with these horses. They use them for reining, for barrel racing, for all kinds of different things. So very cool, strong little horses. And that's really useful for us as a therapy horse because we want horses for you guys that are strong, with sturdy horses to be able to carry riders, but not super tall. So we can help you guys out. We can show you what to do with your hands. We can do our holds and things like that to support you. So good, strong little horses are really useful for therapy horses. So we have Rooster, and Tiki is also a quarter horse, and Tess is actually half quarter horse. She's half Arab and half quarter horse, and that's why she's a little bit stronger than if she was a purebred Arabian horse. So yeah, they are our quarter horses, and they also come in every color imaginable. All of the colors, you can pick which one you want. All right, what have we got next?
So the last one that I'm going to talk about is an umbrella term. So it's not really a breed, but it's a way that we describe a category of horses, and that's called a heavy draft. Okay, so for those of you who remember Gypsy, she was a Belgian. So Belgians, Clydesdales, those are considered heavy drafts. And the way you know that a horse is a heavy draft is, well, they're heavy, right? If you guys think of like a Clydesdale, right? They're really, really tall with really thick necks, and they've got these legs that kind of look like tree trunks, right? So they were bred to do really heavy farm work and to pull heavy things for people. Our beautiful girl Rosie, who's behind us, or Cesar, fjords are considered light drafts, meaning they're really chunky and strong and they can pull a lot, but they're not a heavy draft. And I think Jenny might have a chart for what the different drafts are that we can show.
For cold-bloods.
Cold-bloods. We'll get to that in a minute. But essentially, a heavy draft is a horse that's got big feet, really thick neck, big legs so they can support this big body. And technically, a little bit, we only have two horses that are heavy drafts, but not full draft. Gypsy was our Belgium, and she was our full heavy draft. You guys think of the other two? We can say hi to Nellie if she goes by.
Hello.
Hi, Nellie. Hi, Laura. So the two heavy drafts we have are Sherman and Harvest. So if we look down at Harvest, even from far away, you can see that he's got that big, thick neck and that big, big body. So that if he were a full draft, if you can think about how big he was, if he wasn't mixed with something else. So those are our two kind of heavy drafts. But again, it's an umbrella term that more describes a category of breed, which is a good segue to talk about warm bloods because they're similar.
Right, absolutely. So, draft horses are what we call cold-blooded horses. So, I'm going to try and keep this simple. There's many gray areas with breeds of horses, but typically there are two categories of horses. We have cold-blooded horses and hot-blooded horses. So let me get my handy-dandy chart out about this. So the cold-blooded horses, like Devin was talking about, they're like our heavy draft horses. They tend to be bigger, they have like a calm temperament, typically used for big, heavy, slow type work. Typical breeds we have here, Percherons, that's a French draft horse. They were actually bred for pulling big logs through forests, and they're actually still used for that. When they don't want to chop down the whole forest, they'll go in and chop one big tree down, and a big Percheron horse will go and pull it on out of the forest. Clydesdale and Shire horses, very close to my heart. We have those from my motherland. We have a lot of Shire horses, big, beautiful horses that are often used for driving, pulling really big carts and working the land on farms. And so at the other end, we have what we call our hot bloods. So they're things like Arab horses, thoroughbreds, so like race horses, those kind of horses that you see doing horse racing. You ever watch like 3-day eventing or show jumping, a lot of those really athletic, like quick, responsive, fast, super athletic horses, they're our hot-blooded horses. So when you breed two of the cold blood with a hot blood, then you get a warm blood. So these are really good horses where these are really popular horses. They're used a lot in dressage, also in eventing. We call them sport horses for some of them. And they are taking elements of those two groups. So you're getting that strength from those cold-blooded horses and that athleticism from those hot-blooded horses, and putting together in one super fun package to get a strong, little bit more sturdy but still athletic horse. So they're really good for those like precision sport type horses that people use at a high end. And we were looking at Rosie before. So if you look at Rosie's title, you will see that she is a warm blood. There are specific breeds of warm blood. In particular, there's a lot in Europe, a lot of German and Dutch specific breeds of warm blood, but we don't have that many of them at Little Bit. And we also don't have that many hot bloods. And that's because of what I just described about their temperament. So we do have Mr. Banks now. He's a thoroughbred that we now have. And this is what I was saying right about the start, is there's always exceptions to the rule. So generally, when anyone is learning to ride, a hot blood, not necessarily the best place to start. Right, Devin?
Oh, yeah.
Those horses are going to be the ones that are going to be fast. You're going to give them a little click kick and they're going to be off. They're going to be like, all right, let's go. Not always the best place to start when we're learning to ride. So for therapy horses or for any riding school program, we want to err a little bit more towards those cold-blooded breeds that are a little bit quieter, have a little calmer temperament, and that's why we don't have a lot of those hot-blooded breeds here at Little Bit. But as I said, Mr. Banks is a bit of an exception. He's a super chill guy, so he's a thoroughbred, he's a hot-blooded breed, but he's a kind of chilled out kind of guy. So we think he's going to do really, really well in the program. So we've given you a huge amount of information here, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg of all the information about horse colors and breeds. You could spend lifetime learning about all the different breeds reported around the world. Lots of different countries have different native breeds that are specific to that country. It's a really interesting thing to learn about. And I've certainly learned a lot by just doing my research for talking to you guys today. So we're going to go ahead and open up for questions and answers. And I will be putting all of these documents, all these images on the results website. So you're welcome to go and find them there. Like I said, I think one thing to do is to try and describe your little bit of horse. What color is it? What's its markings? What breed do you think it is? Fun exercise. All right.
Ladies.
Thank you.